Slight technical hitch here. Don't panic. Let's just see if I can get it sorted very quickly. Very strange. Let's try again, shall we?
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it.
Oh, that was my big professional introduction there. I think what's happened is that my guest this week it's just made me nervous, mate. I'm just so in awe of him. I pressed the wrong button. Hello, everybody out there. It's Monday, 7 o'clock. Welcome along to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan, where every week I'm joined by a friend who's from the world of comedy, and we discuss life, the universe, well-being, and anything else. As always, you are more than welcome to join in by dropping us a comment. Have a look at our social media feeds, our YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, SoundCloud, wherever really. Just write something on a wall. We'll find it. How's your day been, guys? What have you all been up to? Anyone got anything exciting that they want to share or tell me about? I've spent the day trying to sort out a PCR test so I can get on an aeroplane. Very confusing, very frustrating. Got to do it 2 days before flying, and yet there's no available appointments to have it done until 2 weeks after I come back. Very strange. Welcome. Anyhow, it's not stressing me out because I've had a cup of tea and a bit of cake, and then I'll try again tomorrow. I'm sure it will get done. So this week's guest is a real personal favourite of mine. I first came across this guy when I was at school, believe it or not. That's how long ago it was. I used to love watching the real McCoy. I just thought he was hilariously funny, very on point, and just ahead of its time as it's turned out to be. But more than that, this guy Curtis Walker, as a comedian, personally, I would put him up there with all the greats of the last 25 years in the UK. I would much rather have seen him succeed than Michael McIntyre, Jimmy Carr, Mickey Flanagan. And anybody who's worked with him will tell you that this guy is as good, if not better, than all of those. And I dare say even some of those would tell you the same thing as well. He's been an actor now for several years and has been on some pretty impressive stuff. He pops up all over the place. I was catching a bus one day and there was a poster advertising, I think it was sickle cell, and I'm looking at Curtis while I wait for my bus. My friend went to the opening ceremony for the Olympics and saw him there. I once went to the Hackney Empire. We were fundraising for school. He popped up there. He gets everywhere. It's like sand, basically. But where he should be popping up is on shows like Live at the Apollo, all over Netflix. This guy really is, I personally think, one of the best comics to come out of this country, certainly in the last 25 years. So with that introduction out of the way, let's get to it. Let's meet him. It's Curtis Walker. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Nice introduction, John.
I love the fact that you've got your light behind you in the corner, making it look like you're a saint. You've got this angelic halo around you.
Backlighting, John. You want to try it, mate? It's called backlight.
No, mate, I've got the laundry behind me. I've got the Japanese laundry behind me. So I have, there's someone washing stuff back there. What have you been up to? How's your day been?
My day's been busy. Just, just stuff, John. Nothing exciting. A mate of mine had an operation on his shoulder and can't drive. He's one of these old school guys who's still got a manual vehicle. I don't know about yourself, but I haven't driven a manual for a while. But he can't drive, so I had to drop his car somewhere today, and that took up most of my day.
Shocking times, man. How did you cope with lockdown? Were you busy? Did you keep
Terrible,
doing stuff?
terrible. Had a hard time on it. I must admit it was rough on me. Rough. But that's just work. It was work that went missing. Money went missing. You know, that kind of story where everybody, you know, there's rich got rich and the poor just got poorer. So I got poorer. Yeah.
But did you use your time to be creative? Did you write a play, a musical, a book? Did you learn another language? Did you do couch to 5K?
I learned 4 languages and did 15 recipe books. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to
cope with them people.
No, I didn't. I just tried to survive. I think mentally, physically, spiritually, just tried to get through it. Spent a lot of time talking to people, friends. You know that it's weird because of lockdown. I spoke to people more than I would have had lockdown not have happened. If you know what I mean. Constantly checking in on people. Constantly checking in on friends. It was really kind of clarity. You get a clarity. During lockdown, it was really a time for me. It just cleared a lot of stuff, and people that were important to me became more important. And yeah, that's what I really realized. And people I didn't miss, I don't miss. It's very strange. You know what I mean? It just clarified who was who and what was important for in that time. You know.
So where was you brought up?
I was brought up in South London, a little village called Brixton. So
Caesarea?
I was raised in Brixton. So raised. Yes, I didn't grow up. I was raised. I was very fortunate to have both parents and very much raised.
And when you was a kid, was you the funny one in the family? Was you the funny one in the class?
In the funny, it's a thin line between funny and on some kind of scale, you know, on some kind of spectrum. Because the funnier you are, the less you're learning, I think. And I was reluctant to learn, but I was very interested in words. You know what I mean, John? I was interested in words. I kind of did enjoy things like Shakespeare and poetry and all of that from a very young age, which was weird for my surroundings.
Well, yeah, but what I think a lot of people don't realise, like the whole Shakespeare thing, the people used to go and watch it. It was working people, and it was the roughs. It wasn't always the posh people that went to see it. Yeah,
and I think, but the Tulse Hill School was my secondary school, Tulse Hill, and Tulse Hill School, and I was fortunate enough to have a teacher that really liked me in a really positive way.
Okay, making a difference.
And the teacher really liked me, and people's minds go. But this was a genuine teacher. His wife was an actress, and she was what was I 13, 14, and she was in a play or musical in the West End, in South Bank. Yeah, she was at the National, and it was my first experience of a kind of big production, and it was it helped me a lot. Just he took me there one evening to meet his wife and see a show, musical. Don't ask me what it was called, but got to meet all the cast backstage and just really enjoyed it a lot. And then came back and at school spent a lot more time doing English and concentrating on English and enjoying it, the spoken word, the written word, you know.
Do you think that teacher then, was that what made the difference to you?
Yeah, Tom Wilson, definitely changed my kind of outlook on life and what was possible, you know, because you come from a certain community. Sometimes your aspirations are limited because of what you see around you and what people do as work. And it was very much about a trade. When I was growing up, my dad was a plumber, my uncles were electricians. It was all about a trade. And as much as my dad taught me DIY stuff around the house and stuff I could do, but I remember studying motor vehicle engineering at South Thames College. When I left school, I went to South Thames College in Wandsworth to study motor vehicle engineering. And I must have started the course in September. And then in February of the next year, they sent us on work experience. And I spent about half a day in a garage and that was it. Freezing cold. I walked out halfway through the day.
Various.
He said to me, the last thing I heard was bleed those brakes, and then I couldn't feel my fingers as I touched the little release. I couldn't feel my fingers. I was like, nah, this ain't. And then a piece of breeze came through the garage. I said, bro, I'm going home. I'm just can't. And you're young, innit? So you know, it wasn't life shattering to leave. I walked off. I said, later, I can't do it. It's cold, and I never really bothered with it again.
You had nothing to walk into. You just were that.
No, I had nothing to walk into, but I did have a driving license, and in my day, that was pretty much a golden ticket. Once you had a driving license, there was jobs available, you know. So I left that and started driving for Ilya, in the London education.
Wow.
Yeah, delivering school books and paper and pencils, and you know. And I really enjoyed that job. It was nice because I could.
Was that South London as well?
Yeah, well, as far as Bedford, we went up to. That was as around as, you know, I think it was Greater London, whatever that area was. Ilya covered. So this journey was up to Bedford or just past Milton Keynes, Watford. That was the furthest one. Nobody wanted that.
Would you be cracking jokes while you was working, or were you just?
No, just you know what it is, John. I think it's just not having anybody on your shoulder, just not having anybody tell you anything. Jobs like that I can do, you know, or did enjoy. Where you clocked in the morning and you clocked out in the evening, and during the day was your day. When you're delivering, you knew you had to empty the truck by the end of the day. And that was it. There was no boss, as in somebody saying, oh, you're supposed to have done this, or have you done that? It was just that I find that very difficult, being dictated to, because all the office work I did, I hated. You know, I did all manner of work. You know, it goes when you want to be somebody else, you want to be something else, and you do things when you're young till you find that spot, that place. And I think from I left school, I knew I wanted to be involved in some form of entertainment, but I wasn't sure what form that would take, you know. And so I did hairdressing for a while, you know.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, that's just an amazing thing to go from, you know, like I could be a mechanic, I could be a hairdresser. It's that hands-on skill.
Yeah. It was a good time, you know. As rough as it was a good time for work and stuff. I don't know if I'm taking people back now, but we were being ruled by Margaret Thatcher. The miners were striking. There was a lot of doom and gloom. The specials. Who was it? This town's coming like a ghost town.
The specials.
Yeah, that tune was banging, man. I remember because again, it was just moments I remember throughout history of 1981. Yeah. I could tell you because the Brixton riots had happened, and I remember walking down Relton Road, and I could actually smell burning buildings. You could actually the essences were still in the air of the burning and the wood burning, and ashes and all of that. And I remember in my mind there was that track, this town's coming like a ghost town, and it all kind of became relevant, you know what I mean? And I was like, wow, I realized that track. I know it was written about Sheffield, I think, or Coventry, was it? Coventry, yeah. But it so resonated with me at that time, and it
became an anthem.
Yeah. And
it's times. So when did you start doing stand-up?
Well, stand-up happened a bit by accident. As I said, Mr. Wilson, Tom Wilson, my English teacher, because remember I'm writing poetry. He, unbeknownst to me, had submitted some of my work to a poetry competition or something that was happening in London, and and that was just a written word. So it went through like regionals. I don't know what happened, but it went through kind of regionals, and then it got selected in the final. Didn't win. It's not a happy ending, but I had to then go down to St. Martin's in the West End, first time into West End properly, and had to perform it. And that was my first time standing in front of punters, you know, people, whereas I'd done school plays and stuff like that. But I had to do my work and perform it. And enjoyed it. I really, you know, you get a buzz, don't you? And I came back after that and went in the school gym in Tulse Hill and from that gig, from that event, I got a few bits of offers for work. But my confidence wasn't where it should be. And then I hooked up with my brethren, my best friend at the time, Ishmael Thomas at the time, Ishmael Muhammad now. And we formed what is known as a double act. At the time, it was just two friends picking up maybe 300 quid for half hour's work. And that was for young 17, 18-year-olds, man, that was a lot of money.
That'd be good money nowadays, mate. True. I don't think they'll turn that down.
Yeah.
And then, so you started doing stuff with Ishmael.
Yeah.
And then, how soon was it before you got picked up by TV?
Oh, God. It was, I don't know the years, but because we were so young, it all happened really fast. So we were probably 3 years in the game doing Apples and Snakes poetry circuit. And then entered another contest. There was a lot of contests back then, a lot of heats and stuff like that. So we did a contest and ended up on a TV show called First Impression, which was our first bit of TV. And we had the double act kind of slick by then. It was quite well rehearsed and worked quite well. And I suppose we ticked a lot of the boxes that were going on at the time because we were so, I want to say unique, but we weren't in a black community. We weren't that unique, but we were the best in the black community. There was Jefferson and Whitfield, and I remember Gary Beadle. I don't know if you remember Gary, but Gary Beadle had a double act.
Gary Beadle, I remember Gary Beadle.
But they were both actors who came together, but so it wasn't what we would know as a double act. They were just two guys, not really best friends or friends either. But that's the story of most double acts, isn't it? They really don't like each other. But yes, out of the two, we had that kind of unique. Yeah. We had that unique thing where we were actually best friends, and it kind of resonated through the lens. And then we got picked up by different people. Did a play with Maya Angelou. This was the break for us. Maya Angelou directed a play called Moon on a Rainbow Shore at the Armida, and we auditioned for her. Separately, obviously, and then both got a part in the play.
Wow.
And she went on, and then because we were in rehearsals with her, we had a gig at where was it? I think it might have been Jongleurs Battersea. We had a gig at Jongleurs Battersea, and invited her and her people down to the show. She actually came. When you invite people, you think, they'll never show up.
Yeah.
But she actually turned up, and it was from there. I think 2 nights later, she was on Wogan, the TV show Wogan, and then mentioned us, just in an interview, just mentioned us. And that was it. The phone, boy, just blew up. And didn't have an agent. It was just me answering the phone, pretending to be somebody else.
Oh, mate. Is that where that kind of Brixton upbringing came in, just being able to think on your feet?
Yeah, the hustler, man. I could tell you some stories about hustling. That's all I ever did was hustling. You got to survive, haven't you? It's that thing. It's the name of certain people. You just got to survive. And just turned it on, man. And she mentioned our names, which is just so. Even now, I think. I suppose incredible. It's the same with the internet now. I suppose if you get a certain amount of likes or whatever, you've gone clear or whatever, or views, should I say? But just her mentioning our names on what at that time was one of the biggest evening shows.
Because people forget that now you've got 200-300 channels, but back then, 3 or 4.
Yeah, and she just mentioned our names, and then the offers came in, and we started moving, and things started happening.
And then, did you feel then in front of the cameras? Did you feel comfortable and at home, or were you more comfortable in front of a live audience?
You know what? I never really respected the cameras, so it wasn't like I'm thinking about cameras. Maybe we should have been, but really, because we were fortunate enough to always have a studio audience, we always worked towards them. That's coming from being live on stage, from doing gigs, I suppose. But even that, you're never really aware of cameras. You think it's the director's job to find you rather than trying to find the camera. And that's probably the wrong way to do it. But what do I know? I've never really been aware of cameras. Even when you've had opportunity to do films, you work with the other actor, unless it's something you've got to do straight to the lens. But even then, you treat the lens like somebody, don't you?
I'm not. I've not really done much acting, but
Yeah,
the little I have done.
well, you know, as a comic, most comics
Yeah.
we do it, but boy, it's firmly tongue in cheek, you know. I mean, I know there's a lot of comedians who are very good actors, but a lot of comedians who aren't, you know. And I'm always, even the little films and the things I've done, I've always been a very tongue in cheek with it, man. Like, oh, really? And I'm probably doing a terrible job, but nobody's actually pulled me up on it yet. I'm getting away with some things, you know.
So if we go back just for a minute to Real McCoy, which was a bit of a breakthrough, because I remember at school everybody was talking about it, and it was funny because we didn't see it as a black television program.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, we just saw it as something on telly that we could all understand. Because I was
when we were arguing with the BBC execs for sketches, you know, it's your voice, and you know, with the white community, that they took that as a stick to beat us with, you know, that you wouldn't get it, that white people wouldn't get it. Every joke you wrote, everything you wrote, they would say, but Middle England wouldn't get it, white people won't get it. You've got to be more inclusive. It was very annoying, John. Very annoying.
I could see maybe how Middle England might kind of struggle with it, but that whole Irish Moss skit when you all diddly up was hilarious, man. Yeah. And I used to Leo Chester would just have me in pieces, just roaring, and Felix and like I say, because there were a few kind of white characters on it, but it was more about the situations. So we used to go to the Caribbean Takeaway, and we used to have friends, parents who were just crazy. Yeah. And so like where I lived in Hackney, at the it was called a West Indian Takeaway then, and you could get boiled bacon, cabbage, rice and peas. Yeah. And they would, you know, because Irish would eat in there and black people would eat in there. So we used to watch things like that.
But that was our reality as well. Much as we grew up in Brixton, our reality was, especially with the Irish community as well, that was part of our parents' journey, our journey. Yeah. But I'm telling you, the execs and the people who can make stuff happen have no idea of that because they don't move with people like you. And at that time when we were doing Real McCoy, they swore down that you didn't exist. And they'd ask you questions. Remember, we're doing gigs with Apples and Snakes. We're doing a lot of white audience gigs, you know, aside from people like yourself, who's that kind of community that know black culture and know a bit about black culture. They would swear you didn't exist, and they couldn't understand. Well, we've been to Middle England, we've been to these places and performed and done well. So you'd still have to justify every piece of the sketch, not just is it funny. This is what happens to a lot of our cultural material. You don't just have to look at is it funny, because I will defend something if I think it's funny, and if it's rubbish, then it's rubbish. It's not funny. But they weren't coming at you with it's not funny. They were coming at you with I don't think blah blah will get it. And if you're writing material or writing sketches for a specific group of people, you've lost the battle. You've lost. Do you know what I mean? It has to be a thing where is it funny first? Tell me you don't find it funny, then we can have a conversation.
Yeah, but for me, laughter
people won't get this joke.
But anyway. Laughter is universal. It's like Father Ted. A lot of my black friends found Father Ted hilarious.
Yeah. It's very funny thing. And that I don't know. See, Father Ted wasn't worried about me. Will it make? Because it's funny, isn't it? It's just funny. It's like I remember watching a program called Ramsey Nesbitt.
Ramsey Nesbitt.
Was that the name of it?
Yeah, Ramsey Nesbitt. That was the character.
Yeah, but anyway, that sitcom or that sketch show. And I remember I really enjoyed the rhythm of it and the humor of it, but I must admit the language took me a while to buy into. But that was my journey, and that don't mean you don't make the show. You make it, and then the audience, if they're enjoying it, find it. Do you know what I mean? And where we were, that wasn't the case. It had to be perused by people who would tell you, oh, my mum, I showed my mum. Like, you'd have a producer come and tell you, I showed my mum the sketch, she didn't enjoy it. That meant the sketch had to go. And then I'd argue, well, if your mum got it, we're missing the audience we're going for then. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, it's that playing, rather than people coming to you. And you mentioned Maya Angelou, one of the greatest, not just writers, but inspirational humans of the 20th century. Does it matter that she was black or white? Does it matter?
Mm.
If you're going to inspire people,
Yeah.
then, you know, I was always told when I was a kid that blind people don't judge you on your looks.
Yeah.
And that's the barometer, isn't it? Are you
But
going
when
to
a blind
find
person calls you ugly, is that bad?
mate, you really in trouble then. But again, it was that when I've done like what I call the urban gigs on the circuit, the black comedy circuit, I've very often been on with another white act who has never performed at them, who will go, are they going to find me funny? And I'll look at them like, well, no, because they're different to us, aren't they? They don't eat, they don't live in houses, they don't have families, they don't have love, they don't want better for their kids. They're nothing like us. How are they going to relate to us? They've probably never even seen a white person. It's that kind of stupidness. It's about funny. It's funny, isn't it?
Well, that's what we know as comedians. But when you become the decision makers and the person with the power, I don't know what happens to you. You just lose the plot a little bit, you know. Because
do you feel that now with people like Mo Gilligan and that coming through? Do you think then that he's performing to a different audience, a different world than the one that you guys were?
I definitely think that it's more in Mo's hands than it was in ours because of remember Mo's a social media phenomenon and it got his product or what he's about out there well before anybody could shut him down. Do you know what I mean? So when he hit it running because he had an army of people behind him. And, you know, we didn't have that. We didn't have that kind of luxury. And as much as we have it now, it's a skill doing it, because even during lockdown, this is going back to lockdown, where you gain more respect for what we're doing now on this streaming and the social media things, which somebody of my age, or no, it's not age, is it? It's somebody of my mindset. Wasn't au fait with it, man. And I kind of resented it and all the things that an old git would do. But lockdown taught me that, boy, this thing is it's a thing. It's a powerful thing. And the people that are creative on it are doing the work. Could they rip the roof off a comedy club? I doubt it. But it's another skill. It's another skill that I don't possess, because I get really, I can't just jump up in the morning and start filming myself or saying, oh, look at what I've eaten today. It's just not in me. Look, I'm having a sandwich. And, you know, it's alien to me, but I get it. I get it now. After lockdown, I get it. Because a lot of it kept me mentally sane doing things like this.
A lot of people try to make themselves relevant by coming up with all this social media content. I had quite a few people approach me saying, look, I can get you 2 million followers. I'm like, look, Jesus had 12 followers, and look at the trouble he got into. I can't be doing with having... Do you know, we're still on that time where you don't want strangers knowing your business, which is very difficult then if you're working in an environment where the more people who know you, the more success you can have.
Yeah, that's where it's at right now. But what scares me is the way people believe social media. You know, I remember talking, I won't mention the name, but I remember talking to a comedian who was going through a terrible time in real life, but on their social media platform, the world was bright and sunny and on the yellow brick road, you know? And that's the danger of it, where you kind of lose touch with reality because you're thinking this is real. People only show the best of themselves on social media. You know what I mean? It's not who they are. It's not
real. That's what you got to remember. It's not real.
It's not real, man. It's fun.
So if anyone's just joining us now on Monday morning, or Monday evening, or any other times, or if you listen to us in the depot, guys who are working for our show sponsors, WJ, you're listening to me, John Ryan, on Reading the Signs with the legendary, in my head, superstar, Curtis Walker, just talking about life and stuff. Do follow our social media channels, which is a good kind of segue into it, on all the usual stuff. I don't know how you do it. Get one of your teenagers to do it. That's what I do. Get one of your kids to do it. But Curtis, what you're saying, right, that does fascinate me, is that you got this background, right? You got this, like, a real I call it a real background, right? So you've grown up, school wasn't for you, you've tried different jobs, you've got this little sniff of, was it like, was the Real McCoy the first TV you did?
No, the first TV was the double act Curtis and Ishmael. I forget. First impression. Then we got a slot of Wogan.
Oh,
So after Maya Angelou mentioned us, the next week we were on Wogan.
Wow.
With a sketch.
Wow.
I remember with Dolph Lundgren, Grace Jones, and love the guy, he died recently. The Australian kind of commentator James.
Oh, Clive James.
Right, not Clive James, Australian. Older, bald, used to do some great documentaries back in the day. Anyway, he'll come.
Yeah. Him. Yeah, that one.
Him. James. Anyway, and so it was that, and that kind of propelled us. Then I wrote to a production company and said, look, we want to do a show. Now, this is a true story, but not told very often. As in the start of The Real McCoy. Charlie Hanson, producer, I set up a gig for me and Ishmael, 2 singers, Speedy and Nobby, who were vocalists, and we did like an evening, like a cabaret evening, down in Harlesden, the little bar in Harlesden, man. Proper seedy, but it was what we knew, you know what I mean? And we went down, and they came. So he came with a BBC exec, who I didn't know, but came, and we did the show for him. And then about a week later, we were brought in for discussions about a show, which was the birth of The Real McCoy. So myself and Ishmael and Colette Johnson, Luella Gideon, who at that time were a double act called Short, Sharp, and Shocking. And we've been doing the circuits together. And then that was that seed, I suppose, that was sown for The Real McCoy. But
like Luella Gideon was in like nearly every episode.
Yeah, but Luella was a phenomenal writer, you know, or still is, I don't know. But she used to, her and Leo Muhammad, churned out some sketches. And that was the thing about The Real McCoy. It was what you dream of as a youngster coming up. It was that dream, whereas writers were notified and a lot of the sketches were handed in by writers who weren't in the show, submitted, sorry. A lot of sketches were submitted, but we had the kind of power to sit there and read a lot of the sketches, and ones that weren't, and then Luella must have got the memo that, you know, you can get paid if you write the sketches. And once that went through the cast, everybody suddenly went over, started, and Luella wrote a lot of sketches because and Leo wrote too many. Leo, I don't know even if he even saw his family, because Leo would come back the next week with reams of sketches.
Justin, how did you cope then with, because when you've got more than 2 comics, you've got some egos at play then. You've got all these other things coming into play. How did that work? Was that positive creatively?
It was probably horrible. You want the honesty? It was probably horrible, but your egos are so big, and everybody had a nice big ego, but we did listen to each other. We did respect each other. And I'm being honest with you, there were no real major fallouts. And the thing about it was, when your sketch was rubbish, there was no hesitation in telling you that sketch is rubbish. And that was a good place to be. Do you know what I mean? Quite hurtful, you know, I suppose. But as I'd never had a sketch refused, I'll sit on that. But I only wrote good sketches, and I might have written probably about 8 or 9 for the whole series or 2 series that we were in. And yeah, you kind of know what works or what doesn't, you know. But Luella wrote a load, and Leo wrote a load of sketches, like a lot of the ones you're mentioning about the Irish Moss. I think that was a Luella. Irish Moss. Yeah. And Country and West Indian. She did a lot of the musical sketches, would have been Lou. She loved music, you know, along with the composer who was on the show. But yeah.
But it's interesting to me, though, like how, like Felix, I think, kind of really kicked on from it.
Yeah. But Felix was a don before he got on Real McCoy, because Felix had been doing what we call the mainstream circuit for years. So Felix came onto it as a kind of add-on, in that Felix just worked with Felix. You won't see Felix in a sketch with anybody else, because he was his own entity. So he would come in and do a piece in front of the studio audience, that brilliant comedy that he did. But he was very much, you know, just him in his world with the characters he did, the Buppy, all those characters he did, which was very close to Felix, because where we were coming from was somewhere totally different than where Felix was coming from. Felix was a Crouch End boy, and I think it was Guildford or something like that. Different world to us, and I know we were kind of a lot for him in that we were loud, we were brash, and he was a classy guy, very sophisticated guy.
So then you've gone from that, and then the comedy you keep going. What about the serious acting? How did that come about? Was it Bullet Boy? Was it Bullet Boy that you did?
Yeah, Bullet Boy. That's just somebody asking to see you in an audition, isn't it? And you turn up and do it and hope they like it. I've never really had a plan with the acting. Never had a plan. It's always been somebody's called and want to see you specifically, which is nice. But I think I would have loved to have done more at that age, at that young age. I would have been a lot better and took it more seriously. But when you're earning your living on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes on a Sunday, you're earning your money. So you're doing all right. Do you know what I mean? So the acting became a thing of, well, if I can fit it in, it became like that. And you'd audition for things you want to do, which was a nice place to be, I must admit, because Bullet Boy, I wanted that. And once I read the script, or what was it, because the director allowed you to improvise a lot, which was so nice. And but the essence of it, the story, I really wanted to be a part of the telling of that. And it was one of those ones where you kept getting callbacks. I think I did about 2 callbacks, and I ain't got the patience, So on the third one, I said, look, what's going on? And apparently you're not supposed to do this. I've gone, what's going on? Do you want me in it or not? I don't understand why I'm doing the same thing every time I come. I'm not changing it up. This is all I got. And it was kind of jarring, and the room went silent. And he goes, and then he kind of broke character, and we were just looking at somebody else. And I said, who are you looking at? You know the way you do it in that kind of bully way. Who else are you looking at? Who are you looking at? Do I know them? And he named the actor, and I went, he can't do this. He can't do this. I said, I was raised with this. He can't do this. And I own it. That's the way I got the part. Bullied my way in.
But again, so you keep popping up with all these little things, and then, like I said, from Real McCoy, how even Eddie Nestor went on to do radio, and Julius went on to EastEnders.
Great face for radio.
Yeah, and then Bullet Boy, Ashley Waters become a star. His star is still rising.
Yeah, Ashley
I remember when he was filming that, messaging you a couple of times, saying that I just thought the guy just owned the screen, and because it was filmed around where I lived, it was I really understood it. And then, so I'm just wondering then where you go, where we're going to find Curtis getting his level, or are you always just going to be like this? You're like a scouser, mate. Everywhere I go, you're just like I said. I was catching the bus one day. And your picture's looking at me from the advert.
That was organ donation. They were trying still trying to get people to kind of. But I think now they've changed the law in that you have to opt out. Or that's the plan. That's what they were fighting for back then. In that if you have to opt out rather than opt in, which I've always been kind of advocating, because too many people are waiting for organs, and a lot of people are passing away, and whatever. But you could make something good out of something bad. Yeah, it's that thing of people waiting for organs. It's really a sad situation. It really is.
Yeah, it's when you want people to do something, it's harder than get them to do nothing. So if doing nothing is a default option, mate, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
So that fascinated me. But would you like to do more theatre? Proper. I could see you in plays.
Yeah. Well, I've done a few plays, but it's. I love stand-up, John. I really do. I'd love to do stand-up on a bigger scale. I'd love to kind of in the acting world. There's a skill in directing, which I think I've done a few directorial duties and really enjoyed that. I've done a few producer duties and really enjoyed that. Because I don't really want to be the guy, if you know what I mean. And that's always been the bane of my kind of life, in that I want success, but I'm really not. I'm so shy, and people don't know that. But I don't like being the center of it all. Do you know what I mean? And that's weird saying when you're on stage, look at me, look at me, look at me. But once I've gone off stage or finished, I'm done. I really am. I'll just sit in a corner somewhere. I'm not that fussed in being the center of people's attention. I really am not. But people find that hard to kind of work out. But it is who I am. And so if I could do something successfully behind the camera or behind the stage, that's what I would love to do. And the acting is something I enjoy, but I'd love to give it more respect, you know? And because people are asking for you, they know what they want. You understand what I mean, John? So you don't really get a chance to stretch any kind of acting muscles because they already have a preconceived idea of who the character is and who they want.
You just got to fit it. You just
So you don't really get to flex anything. And some plays have scared the hell out of me.
I've done some castings where I've gone along and they've said, just be yourself. And my thing is, what is it about me then? Are you making is it me? Yeah. Acting is not for me. Do you see yourself, because I know that you're very well respected, not just on the black comedy circuit, but on what was the mainstream circuit. Do you see yourself as a role model, or is it something that's been thrust on you?
You know what it is? I see myself just being honest, and I kind of pride myself, even on stage. I try and be honest, and I try to be real, and all those things that I don't really know what they mean. But I've got to look at myself every day. I've got to look in the mirror every day. My children got to look at me or look at what I'm creating, and I just want them not to be embarrassed by it, not to be ashamed of it. And if that resonates itself in the community, in society, then all well and good. But I'm not genuinely not walking around thinking, oh, you're a role model. It's basically I do what I think is right for me. And if I'm okay with it,
I see that. I can see that. But like Mike Milligan just posted a little comment about how much he enjoyed your trip to Singapore together.
Yeah.
And it's this thing about, it goes back to what you said about during lockdown, making the effort and reaching out. It's how many people you affect, or that you can make a difference to. Like I said, when I went to see, it was a fundraiser. It was all school kids, and you smashed this audience, man. And it's a Hackney Empire, 1997, maybe 98.
Wow.
And I just remember watching you, thinking that is a skill, man, because these kids were like 8, 9 years old, loving it, and the parents and the teachers. And so when I first, not at all, mate. And when I first got to work with you, I remember thinking, yeah, I'm almost like a big man now. This is it. I've stepped up a level here. And yet you have no idea that was the case. And it just fascinates me about that. And then I think that, like I've alluded to earlier, watching like the real McCoy, I just saw it as great entertainment. I see you as very great entertainment. How did we not kick on from that to have someone like yourself hosting, your own show like McIntyre's done, or 8 out of 10 Cats hosting?
It's plain for the world to see. We're in a society that is just not that inclined to put black people on. If you're not the black person they want you to be, or you don't fit their little idea of what a black person should be, it's really hard, man. It's really hard. And I know even during lockdown with the Black Lives Matter, all this really greatly affected me, man. I was shook to the core. And then when I'm watching people on TV and everybody's like, people I didn't even know identify as black. You know what I mean? Yeah. I saw Andy Peters. Andy Peters is having a moment on the breakfast TV show he does. And I'm like, really? Andy Peters? Because the journey of certain black people. To acknowledge other black people is hard for them. To embrace other black people is hard for them. So when the people that are achieving as black people are achieving and hitting certain heights in their careers where they can affect change and they don't, it jars me a bit. So this journey I've been on, and you mentioned him earlier with Mo has been one of the most awe-inspiring guys for me in regards of he's hit a success, and he's looked behind him, and he has worked tirelessly to bring on comedians that he has respected. So he's got Slim, on a track now that is just phenomenal.
Yes.
He's got Eddie Caddy on a track now that is just phenomenal. I think Tanya Moore is on a track now, and this is all because of Mo. And this is what we didn't have as a generation. So when Real McCoy finished, the gaze and the attention turned to goodness gracious me.
Yeah.
Now, what people got to remember is Real McCoy, and this is something I thought at the time, I'm being honest, we had a sketch show called The Real McCoy. Now, during that series, or the 5 series it had, 5 series, there was a kind of push to make it suit all, make it Asian, Chinese, whatever it was,
at the end.
trying to put it all into that show. And my argument was, well, do their own show. Let that community, if they want to do a show, don't try and dilute what we're creating. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Then because you're deemed as a troublemaker, you're deemed as a activist, it shut a lot of stuff got shut down because we spoke out. And I'm going to say this really honestly, because of The Real McCoy, we were excited by it. We thought that it should have spawned maybe 5 or 6 actors or performers, Felix being number 1 on that hit.
Yes.
And people don't know this, but Felix did about 5 pilots for the BBC, 5. And that is not an exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, this is something to say, when Felix passed, I know him, you knew him. I knew him, you knew. I was horrified with the amount of people who was telling, powerful people that suddenly had the audacity to tell me and you how talented Felix was. What a wonderful this, what a wonderful that. And it hurt me a bit because I'm thinking, well, he was wonderful. Why didn't you give him that chance? Why did you make a decision that he couldn't have that moment in the sunshine? Do you know what I mean? Because it's all well and good when somebody passes to celebrate them. But I'm sure he would have appreciated being celebrated while he was alive. And you look at, if there's some of them around, but if you ever look at some of the pilots he did, boy, I'm telling you, there's nothing out there now that could compare. He wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but it by far was not the worst things. You know what I mean? But
So how then, if you've got this going through your head, how do you not fall apart under that pressure, under that reality that your best ain't going to be good enough?
I get to go on stage, I get to release, I get to go on stage and do stand-up. Do you know what I mean? And that has been, throughout my career, my kind of therapy. You know, there was a time when me and Ishmael split up, which was a dark time for me because me and Ishmael have been friends from about 3 years old, you know, and then Ishmael tried. This is why I was kind of left The Real McCoy, because Ishmael had issues with addiction, you know? He had his issues. But because we were Curtis and Ishmael, everything was a double act, so everything kind of stuck. And I got tarnished with the same kind of brush. So it affected my situation on The Real McCoy because I didn't want to lead The Real McCoy. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't my choice. So I did 2 series of a 5-series show, which shows how poignant it was, because I'm really amazed that people still remember me in the show because I only did 2 series and everybody else did 5. So you're thinking, okay. But yeah, so the effect, that hit me hard. And then I ended up being a solo performer, which I had never done. People didn't realize that. I'd never been on stage doing comedy on my own. And my first gig as a solo performer was 291 Club, the televised version. I think it went out on LWT. Was my first ever solo gig. I didn't do tryouts. I didn't do anything. It was just because you were kind of a name, they offer you a fee. You jump, you swim or you drown, don't you? And I went on and had I felt a bad gig. But anyway, personally, because your standards are a little higher, but I was so nervous.
You know what you can do.
Yeah, the host introduced me as Ishmael because I always wore the hat.
Ah, nice.
People assumed I was Ishmael because I always wore the little Muslim hat. But so she introduced me, DJ Lane introduces me live. This is a TV show, you know. And I couldn't move. So backstage, I just froze. I was like, what the hell? I couldn't move. And then it was Chris filming. Oh, hang on. And somebody must have rushed to her and said, it's Curtis Walker. And then she said my name again, and I came out. But I cannot express the torture you're going through. Your first gig on your own, and you're introduced as Ishmael Thomas. Wow, it was scary. And then I had
because performers can tend to be quite fragile. You've always struck me as Teflon, mate. I've never seen you phased by a gig. I've even seen you get off stage and walk into an audience to offer to calm someone. Shall we say, Nottingham Junglers. The man was mouthing off, and you just said, "I ain't got time for hecklers." Then you just came off the stage, went over to him, and said, "Would you like to say that again?" You don't. Okay, well, you just shut your mouth. And went back on stage. Everyone in the room's like that. Ah! But then, where does that mental toughness? Yeah, that's the best put down. That's a literal put down. Does that mental toughness then? Is that all from your background and the fact that you still don't see yourself? I think you've got like some sort of imposter syndrome where you don't realize what you're capable of and who you are and how you're seen.
I think on stage I get it. That's the truth, John. Yeah. On stage, I personally believe no one can test me. You know, on stage, if I've done the work and I'm excited to be there and we're going to have a good time, because I'm raised in a kind of thing where I want the audience. I remember one of your mates, what's his name? Brendan Burns. Anyway, call me a pleaser, a crowd pleaser.
What?
Oh, you never, Australian, you never die on stage, do you? You never die, because I just watched him die. And I said, no, I leave that to you. Because it's like he's going out of his way to shut the gig down, which is fine if you're the closer. I think that's fine if you're the closer to have that moment. But if you're not the closer and there's a whole show after you, you have to show some respect to the act that's coming after you. Because we all know the journey you can have if somebody's gone in hard on an audience member and it can turn the whole night. You know them ones, John?
Yeah.
If the act hasn't really dealt with that properly and has gone in too much, we know there's a line. And there are certain comedians that just seem to go for it all the time. And then I go out of my way to make the room right again, which is just what's in me. I want to entertain them.
Yeah, you're big, but you're a nice person. Yeah. It's interesting that we've just had a comment from Dave Sleep, who's some of the blended heritage. It's great to hear this conversation. And again, it goes back to the fact that I think we've become more separated over the last 3 years than at any time in my life. Certainly divided into color, religion, gender, whatever. There's a lot more divisions from what I can see. And yet we're seeing people, apparently your community is the black community, but it's our community, right?
Yeah.
And that's, again, that comes back to what maybe the people in power don't see, that, you know what, we are all one. And so I wonder then, with that in mind, if you could think of something like some kind of positive tip or idea that you could give that would maybe help people who are struggling.
It's hard. I'm not going to do the positive tip thing. I don't get that. I don't understand that. There are differences. Do you know what I mean? And I think we spend a lot of our time trying to pretend there isn't. Pretend we live in this Benetton ad where everybody gets on all harmony, and it doesn't matter about race, class, whatever. There are differences. All I would say is, this is how I've always lived my life. Treat people how you want to be treated. And that's the way I've always lived, regardless of race, creed, color, gender. Treat people how you want to be treated. Because you can't tell me not to embrace my culture. I can't tell you not to embrace your culture should you choose to. Yeah? And there's people that don't choose to. They're in a world where this is how they want it to be. We're all together. We're all wonderful. But it's not the case for a lot of people.
That's right.
It's not the case.
Yeah,
I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that. It's not the case. We'd love it to be the case, but it isn't. So for me to sit here and report that, oh, we're all the same, we're all human beings, there's no difference. There's no difference in us. And if my sons are getting stopped 5 or 6 times a week and yours isn't getting stopped once, you're never going to understand their journey. You're never going to understand.
That's right.
Unless you're willing to say, something's wrong. There's a difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying, John, and I don't want to come, and it's not about badgering or banging up, but my culture is very important to me, as I'm sure a Chinese man's culture is very important to him, as I'm sure the white British culture is important to white British people. And I would never stop. I had a gig last night, and there's a guy in the front row who had issues with me could feel it. You know, you're a comic. You stand on stage, you feel a vibe. There's something ain't right here. But by the end of the night, I tell you, not best friends, but we got each other. We got each other because he was very honest about who he was. And I kind of knew who he was before he opened his mouth in the way that a comic assesses a room. But a lovely guy. But we're different people. But unless we communicate and talk without arguing and fighting each other down, you express your opinion, I express mine, we'll find a common ground. Definitely find a common ground. And that's all I'm about. I don't want us to all be the same, but I want to respect your culture. I want you to respect mine. You know what I mean?
And we find that common ground. Mate, that's the hour has just flown past, my friend.
Wow, sorry, man.
Whoosh.
You want it to be longer, harder work coming.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure. I could talk to you all night. Is there anywhere that people could go see you or just check out your website, or what's the way to do it?
Yeah, just check out my website and I'll be around. Like John said, he said sand, I say salt. I'm trying to survive in a world that doesn't care, and I'm loving it.
That could be the follow-up to Ghost Town, my friend. Stay safe, man. You stay safe and take care.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. It's a pleasure to see you, my bro.
All the best, bro. That was Curtis Walker. Absolutely phenomenal man. Very talented. There's nowhere that this man can go that he's not gonna succeed. Very interesting as a tip to go with accepting our differences, because very often, especially when people have health problems or mental health problems or any other issues, we try to make everyone the same, and that's not going to work. That one size fits all. It's just not doable. Over the weeks, we've gathered people's ideas together, and we tried to keep them in some sort of order to make sense, to maybe help people who are going through a tough time. Kev Hawkin felt that every morning think positive. Now, that's not easy for everyone to do. Phil Doyle added to that, have positive people around you. Okay, so you can have positive people around you, and you can think positive, but what about when that is not working? I think Curtis's point of treating people how you want to be treated is a fantastic way of going about it, because very often we allow other people's behaviour to change ours, and I'm not sure that that's particularly good for anyone, well-being or otherwise. Personally, what works for me is reframing them unhelpful thoughts. Sometimes we're too busy looking at what other people have got and measuring ourselves against it, rather than just thinking about, well, what do I have? How can I make the most of this? I think that it's very important that you don't procrastinate. If you've got something that needs doing, try to crack on with it. I know it's difficult for people. Everyone comes from a different place. But it's really important that we understand that we're in this life, just you get one crack at it, and you're going to spend your health gaining wealth, and then you're going to use up all that wealth trying to get your health back. So think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you can connect with other people, that's always going to help and work in your favor. But sometimes it's very, very difficult. If you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, there are places you can go and get help. The mensradiostation.com has some useful advice on their website, and also all the other shows on there, and also on womensradiostation.com. They're great places to go to for resources if you are looking to help someone or looking to help yourself. Ultimately, it's about how do we help each other. You know what? If your mate's not looking right, help him. Offer a hand. Think about what you're saying before you say it, and just try and be the difference. Try to make somebody's day tomorrow if you can. If you can't, then don't. Hopefully, those of us who can will try to make yours. It's been a really interesting time these last few months with all these changes in rules and regulations. But one thing you can be sure of is that we are all here to help each other. Sometimes we've got to reach out and ask for it, and sometimes we've got to volunteer that help. Take care. We'll see you next Monday, same time.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it.